work on us, not overlook an opponent, not let our guard down, to be present on the opportunity that we had to become a better football team. And obviously we knew that the conference schedule was looming, and, the matchup that we have this week was in the background, and thought our guys showed good leadership and maturity. There's a lot of teams, we all watch college football. We know some teams don't do that. And our team showed maturity, which was something that we needed to do. I also think our Texas Tech win looks even more impressive now, seeing what they did. Congrats to Coach McGuire on his win over Texas. But I think that, for us, guys are getting better. And that's the challenge we have each week, is we want to be a better version of ourselves than we were the previous Saturday, and be better than we were in UConn game, than we were in Texas Tech, and so on. From an offensive standpoint, we started fast. Obviously, I don't know if you can start faster than that. Great throw from Devin to Thayer Thomas. And, one of the goals we had was to be better after the catch, better after contact, have more yards after contact, yard after catches. And Devin Carter answered that. Thayer Thomas, Keon Lassane, Demi, Michael Allen got in the mix there doing it, Delbert Mims. So it was a lot of guys that took that to heart. I thought Devin Leary played fast, made quick decisions, distributed the ball, was accurate. Obviously, I had one he'd like to have back there, which was the turnover before the half, and he'll learn from that. It's nice when you don't have to punt. I don't know if I've had a game like that as a head coach. So that was really nice to be able to end every possession without having to punt the football. And one thing we did a great job of was manage third downs. We had manageable down and distances, which means you did well on first and second, but that's your down and distance management. When you do that the right way, it makes Coach Beck's job a lot easier, and the kids performed better in 3rd and 1 to 2, 3rd and 1 to, or 2 to 3 field position range. Negatively, we had some penalties, 2 pre-snap on guys and 1 on our staff. Just had 12 men on the field trying to substitute a guy out, and didn't get that done in a fast enough fashion for the officials. We had 2 sacks we probably could have avoided with throwaways, and we had 2 drops that were catchable. Defensively, we had 8 3-and-outs and 2 4th down stops. We stopped the run. They had 0 explosive plays in their pass game, and I thought we tackled well with the 1s and 2s. It got sloppy. At the end of the game, we put in a bunch of young guys, and they looked like they were young guys. It was good to get them that game experience, but the product wasn't very good. And that's something that they'll learn a lot from, and hopefully be better for the next time they get out there. On special teams, Chris Dunn continues to be very, very good for us. And I was happy with Colin Smith with his kickoffs. And it was nice for him to get in and play a little bit as our kicker too. He had a nice field goal, kicked off well. I think our punt return scheme, we could have blocked better for Thayer. We had 1 opportunity, and feel like we need to do a better job there. The fake field goal, obviously, whenever a fake doesn't go well, I'll take the credit for that. UConn did a nice job. It wasn't what we thought we were going to get, wasn't what they showed us. And they did a nice job not rushing off the edge that they had been the entire game. So kudos to them on that. As far as this week, excited for the game. It's a great matchup against a very talented group with an experienced, talented staff. Have great respect for Coach Sweeney and his program. 2 top 10 teams competing on a national stage, and that's why we do this. Kids have worked hard, staff has worked hard, and we expected to be in this position. We expected to be 4-0 going to Clemson, and we look forward to playing a great team. And we'll continue to focus on us. I think the path that has got us here is the path we're going to stay on. It's individual and collective improvement through great practice, great meetings, taking care of business. We will focus obviously on our opponent and know those guys. But more importantly, we need to know what we need to get better at and get it done. We're playing at a great venue, longest home winning streak in college football. We know the crowd will be into it. They'll be loud. And when you talk about them, to me, it starts with their defensive front. I think they're really, really talented. They've got a great rotation on the D-line. They're skilled. They're big. They're really good football players on that defensive front. They've done a nice job of recruiting those types of guys, developing them and coaching them. and they put them, in positions to be successful. At linebacker, Trenton Simpson, 22, is a really good football player. He's a sideline to sideline guy and really, really good player. They've played a lot of guys in the secondary. I know they've had some injuries there. They have good length at corner. You can see they're not doing a ton of things, probably less multiple than they've been, and guys are playing hard. I know they just had a tough game with Wake, but I have a lot of respect for Mike Reed, and I know he'll have his guys ready. Offensively, their offensive line has stayed healthy. They've played the same 5 guys in all 4 games. They're better than they were a year ago. I think their quarterback's maybe the most improved part of their offense. He's playing with more poise. He's more accurate. He's definitely giving his guys a chance on deep balls. His receivers, he's got 2 guys that are long that are making plays for him. Their tight ends got 4 touchdowns, and not surprising to see Shipley playing the way he is. Have great respect for Will. He's competitive. He's talented. He's got a lot of great spirit and demeanor. So it's a great matchup. I'm excited to get to work and get into the game planning today and start our practice and go out there. I love our team and our mindset, and excited for them with this opportunity. Questions?
David?
Hey, Coach. Good morning. I know you don't usually focus too much on the rankings, but having this team in the top 10 for the first time in 20 years, how significant is that for you?
Well, it's not for me. It's significant for our team. It's for our university and our alumni, and it's great. We worked really hard to move ourselves up in the national footprint of this sport. It's taken a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears and commitment from a lot of people. So, I know that it's not a stationary spot either. You go up or down based on your performance, but you still have to get to that spot. And we've worked hard to get there. We're going to embrace the opportunity of being there, and we know a lot comes with it. So, I think it's something to celebrate for sure. It's not something to say we've arrived yet, because obviously the rankings at the end matter a lot more than they do after the 4th week. But 20 years is a long time, so I think it's something that should be noted. It's something that people should be excited about. And, I'm proud of our players. We were 3 years ago, 4-8. These guys have worked really hard, to get our football team where it is right now.
Corey?
David, has to be asked, obviously, preparation for a potential hurricane coming through this game as well. What types of things will you do this week to prepare for that, on top of preparing to play in Memorial Stadium for the first time since 2018?
Yeah, there's a lot. You consider crowd noise, so we'll have to have the noise going, and then and have to have wet balls. And we've obviously, or I've been through the hurricane situation before. I hope we don't have to play in something like that, like the Notre Dame game. That was nuts, but we'll be prepared. If it is raining. Hopefully it won't be one of those things that has devastation that comes with it either. Sometimes these things fizzle out. Sometimes they get pretty strong. So we'll just have to see where it goes. But we'll plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Completely different question here, but this team so far through the first 4 games ranks right now 7th in stopping teams in terms of 3rd down conversions on defense. Clemson, meanwhile, number 6 in the country in 3rd down conversions offensively. How big of a component is that going to be this weekend in trying to get them off the field?
Yeah, it's big. I think 3rd down on both sides of the ball is going to be a huge thing. Last year when we won this game, we had 42 minutes roughly of time of possession. And that's because we were successful on defense on 3rd down, and we were successful on offense on 3rd down. And those things lead to time of possession, which is a big deal when you're playing an explosive offense like Clemson's. So we've got to manage 3rd downs on offense. We've got to win 3rd downs on defense. And how do you do that? Execution, obviously, but also giving yourself favorable down and distances on both sides of the ball, trying to get them behind the chains and us trying to keep ourselves from being behind the chains. It's going to be a huge part of the game.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Brian?
Hey, Dave, back to the hurricane a little bit. Is this something you'll monitor? Is it something someone on your staff is responsible for kind of keeping track of? And I imagine it impacts things like travel as well.
Yeah, no, we've already started talking to meteorologists at one of the local spots here. I'm not sure who it was, but Adam Clark from my staff has been in communication with them. I know Buch Oregon's following it. And we do have to have plans on travel, you know, I mean, if we can't fly, then how are we going to get there? So, you know, there's a lot of things that we're having to be ready for in case it gets like that.
Obviously you mentioned that you expected to be 4-0. This game's been circled for a long time by a lot of people. Do you get a sense that everything you want to achieve this year is sort of in front of you at this point?
Well, yeah, I think all of us that are playing our first conference game, we're all undefeated in the conference right now. You know, there's a couple teams that have played one. And so at this point in the season, there's a lot of hope for everybody. You know, I think you just got to handle your business if you want to control your own destiny. And right now, that's our goal. You know, it's just take it 1 week at a time. And if you look at what's in front of us, we got a lot of challenges waiting for us here as week after week after week. The Atlantic Division is real. There's a lot of really good football teams on this side of the division right now.
Thanks.
James.
Yeah, David, it looked like against UConn, you guys ran more tempo on offense. Is that something you wanted to look at in this one? And kind of how do you evaluate the job you did with that?
Yeah, I mean, we've varied the tempos throughout the year. I think you're right. I think we did mix it up a little bit more. Some of that's just a game flow thing for Coach Beck too, you know, and he sees the defense is tired and he wants to step on them that way, then he'll do that, you know, and some of it's our defense. Like if we're playing a lot of snaps, we got to be smart. You don't want to go out there and run tempo 3 plays and 3 and out and your defense is tired. And so it's, you know, complementary football. We've been basically going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out on defense. They were rested. Tim knew he could play at whatever tempo he wanted. And we got to fit those things together so that we're working to protect both sides of the ball.
And I wanted to ask you about Demi. I know coming into the year, you seemed really high on him. He's averaging 6.5 yards per carry. Has he maybe even exceeded your expectations through this point of the season?
No, I think he's right where I would hope he was going to be. He's you've heard me talk about him for a year, so I don't need to repeat it all. But you know, until you get in live games, you don't know. This is what I thought we would have, you know, watching him and how he played in practice. And he's very talented. He's hard to tackle. He's got good vision. He's patient. He can catch. He's tough. So, yeah, he's in a good spot and we just got to keep him growing. You know, he's still learning. You know, each week he gets a little better.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Gibby.
Yeah, Dave, you got players like Devin and obviously Isaiah and Drake playing, you know, key positions, and they also got great experience too. I mean, how important is that coming into a game like this?
Yeah, you know, I can't make a guy have 47 starts, you know, like that's something that takes time to accumulate for players. You know, guys like, you know, that linebacking group in particular, some of the D linemen, you know, our receivers there in DC, we got a lot of guys that have played football, and that's good. And they've been in big games, they've won big games. And so they bring a calmness to the locker room and hey man, you know, they're talking the right way. You know, these are things they believe and they can talk to their teammates and they can show good leadership and they can be calm in the midst of a storm and get guys to settle down if they need to. So that experience is something that I value a lot, because I've had teams that were the opposite, you know, and so you just gotta, when you have it, kind of ride the wave with it.
David.
Dave, at times you have, you know, the all New Jersey backfield with Devin Leary and Demi Sumo. Have you seen that relationship grow? And does it help to have guys from a similar area playing together?
I think there's a pride about it. You know, I'd really never thought about it until you just said it. There's a pride about that for them. They're Jersey tough, as they would say. And, you know, they've had a good relationship before the season, so that's not new. But yeah, I think there's some, you know, being proud where you're from for sure.
And just as a follow-up, you know, first time NC State has played in the top 10 matchup like this in program history, trying to end a 35-game win streak. I mean, is this the biggest game that you've coached at NC State, and maybe is the biggest game in program history?
I don't know. I mean, I'll let you guys figure that out. I haven't studied 35 years of games, so I don't want to speak out of turn on that. But in my 10 years, I would say probably so, you know. But as far as the history, that's a long time. You know, I don't want to step on anyone's toes with that answer, but you know, it's a great opportunity against a great team and a great venue. It's everything you want as a coach and a player, and we're excited for the opportunity.
Chip,
Yeah, Dave, going back to the experience factor that you mentioned, Drake Thomas was saying after the game that with such an experienced group this year that can handle the noise going into this game, both before the game and obviously during the game, but just how big a plus can that be for you, being able to handle all the hoopla that'll probably go with this game? We're already talking about it being the biggest game in program history.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I talked to the team about yesterday. Like, enjoy the moment, you know, enjoy the stage and enjoy the opportunity that's in front of you. But that's not what this week's about. This week's about winning a game. And how do you win a game? By having the best Tuesday practice of the season, you know, and then getting the right food in your body, having good treatment, going to class, getting rest, having a great Wednesday. Like, we have to stack things on top of each other all week. We need to win the game way before the game's played with our players and our staff. And that's what we're focusing on. And, you know, don't spend your time on your phone reading about how great the game's going to be. You know, let's focus on watching film. Let's focus on first down, second down, third down, red zone, all the things we got to be good at. Let's focus on the game plan. And so we've already discussed that. And I think the guys understand, but there is a lot of things that can get you distracted in a week like this. And, you know, we're trying not to look at it as that. It's just more of an opportunity to talk about two great programs.
Rob,
Yes, ma'am. Dave, I remember you talking about going to Heritage High School to recruit players and how Thayer Thomas eventually stood out.
Yeah.
Has his career exceeded your expectations, and how happy are you for the achievements he made? I think he set another record in the last game.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I could have sat there in that game and told you he was going to have the career he's had. You know, I thought he'd be a good player, knew he would help us, had no idea. You know, at that time, he weighed like 150 pounds, you know. I mean, you couldn't have predicted what he is now. And you got to give Thayer the credit. Like, the guy is the hardest working player on this football team. He does everything right off the field, spends so much time on his body, and he's just in the training room now. He's always doing things to be in peak condition. He eats right, he sleeps right, he watches extra film. He practices as hard as any guy in that locker room, if not harder. And it's not a surprise that he's successful when you think about all the things he does right. I'm glad he came back, because I think he is really putting a, you know, exclamation point on what was already a good career right now.
And to follow up, do you think his ascension over his career kind of mirrors NC State, and that the Wolfpack has sort of followed his lead in a regard in terms of growing as a prominent program? I mean, you guys, as you mentioned, 3 years ago, you were 4-8, and now you're in the top 10. Do you think that kind of mirrors what Thomas has done?
Yeah, I see why you say that. You know, I think we've grown together, coaches and players, and Thayer is a great representation of who we are. You know, he's blue collar, man. He works. He's a grinder. He's overachiever, and he's talented, and he definitely is an incredible representative of, you know, the DNA of our program.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Tim Peeler,
Coach, you mentioned the Notre Dame game from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Other than it maybe shouldn't have been played, what did you take away from that that can help you prepare should there be nasty or unusual weather on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little things we did in preparation, even in the game plan. You know, we prepared, maybe we won't even be able to throw a pass, like how are we going to win? You know, so we talked about things like that. We practiced, like I said, with wet balls, and so we're just going to have to do somewhere, you know, is be ready for that in those conditions. And yeah, I hope it's not like that. I mean, that was terrible. You know, I mean, you're standing in water that was calf deep on the sideline, and sideways rain. And so, you know, I hope we don't have a similar situation.
Thanks, Coach.
James,
Dave, you mentioned their staff changes already. Can you go back and look at last year's tape much at all? Maybe just for personnel or scheme? I mean, how do you evaluate last year's game versus now?
Yeah, no, I watched last year's game. I think, offensively, it's the same. I mean, Coach Streeter's very similar to what they were. So, yeah, and the personnel is very similar on offense. So you can look at last year's game on that side of the ball. I think defensively, they've changed more than they have offensively. But, player-wise, it helps to go back and see how, who gave us problems and how they attacked us. And I know they're going to study that as well. So, it's an important piece. But you do have to base more of it on the 4 games this year, I think, when you're looking at the defense.
And I wanted to ask you about Shaheen. You played him against UConn. Was it important to get him some reps, obviously, going into this game?
Yeah, we wanted to get him back in there, and it was good to see him. He had a great 4th down stop when he came in, so we had a rotation, I think, all 4 corners. We only played 42 snaps on defense. Those guys all played 20-something each, and so it was good to get them all in there. Tayshawn Smith got some good reps in that game as well, so I think that's a healthy rotation for us.
Brian,
I think you mentioned that, DJ is one of the most improved players. What have you seen out of him going back, looking at 4 games in his evolution? Obviously, a lot of people were calling for his job earlier this year.
Yeah, he's endured a lot of criticism. Like I said, his completion rate is up. He's throwing good deep balls. A lot of times a year ago, he was overthrowing guys, and now guys have chances to make plays. And you can see his chemistry is good with his receivers. He's throwing them deep. He's back shoulder throwing guys. And his guys are making better plays for him too. I think that's part of this that gets lost sometimes. Quarterbacks take the heat, and there's guys dropping passes all over the field that could have changed the game. That changes the quarterback too. So, a lot's been said about, his body transformation until I'm, right there with him. It'd be hard for me to comment on that, but that he's lost weight and he's more mobile. So he's playing good. I mean, man, he's got people hanging all over him. That 2-point play that, last week was a huge play that he made. And there was a play in the Georgia Tech game on 3rd down, similar situation. And they're off the field, and he finds the back and shovels it to him with people hanging all over him. Is a critical play in that game that kind of busted the game open.
Thanks.
are there any other questions for Coach?
All right. Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.